Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating idea. What if your mind worked just like a personal computer? We're going to dive into a model that explains exactly that, something called prismatic cognition. I mean, just think about it for a second. Imagine your brain isn't just, well, a brain. What if it was running on a specific operating system? One that handles all your ideas, your memories, your creativity. What would that even look like? That's the big question we're tackling today. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll get into that clever name, a PC, for the brain. Then, we'll look at the scientific principle that makes it all run, the theory of emergence. After that, we'll check out the mental software for thinking, see how it all gets networked together, and finally, watch how breakthrough ideas are born. All right, first up, let's talk about the name. It was coined by Dennis Verhaage, and it's way more than just a catchy phrase. It's actually a really clever piece of wordplay that unlocks this whole concept. So a PC isn't just a nod to the computer on your desk. It's actually an acronym for Applied Prismatic Cognition. It's a framework that beautifully connects the world of computers with the symbolic and even physical ways our brains process information to come up with something totally new. Okay, so if our brain is the hardware and a PC is the model, then what's the core process that makes it all, run? Well, that brings us right to a huge scientific idea, the theory of emergence. Emergence is one of those concepts that's, well, it's everywhere once you start looking for it. Just think about a flock of birds, right? No single bird is the boss, there's no leader calling the shots, yet somehow they create these complex, beautiful, coordinated patterns in the sky. That's emergence. Complex systems just arising from simple parts. And in our own minds, it happens when a problem or even just some quiet time forces new connections to spontaneously pop up. And this, right here, is where it all clicks. Prismatic cognition is basically the theory of how that emergence works inside our own heads. It's the blueprint that explains the process our minds use to grab all these disconnected pieces of information and build them into something innovative and new. It's literally the engine of creativity. Now, any good computer is pretty useless without some software, right? So what kinds of applications are we running on this mental PC of ours? Let's take a look at the actual tools we use for thinking. So researcher Shelley Carson identified this incredible toolkit that highly creative or prismatic thinkers use. And this isn't just about being good at abstract thought. We're talking about symbol mastery, the ability to actually think in 3D, and, get this, the ability to treat words and ideas like they're physical objects that you can twist, combine, and reshape in your mind. How cool is that? So how do these tools actually assemble ideas? Well, the model uses this brilliant metaphor, pulling it straight out of biology. tRNA. In our cells, tRNA is like a little messenger that translates genetic code into working proteins. In prismatic cognition, a metaphorical tRNA does pretty much the same thing. It zips around, finds all these disconnected thought fragments and memories, and translates them into a coherent, creative output, like a brand new idea or invention. Okay, so we've got the model, the process, and the software. But this all sounds a little abstract, doesn't it? How can we actually measure these connections? Well, this is where the hard science comes in, giving us what you could call the brain's networking protocol. It's called RSA, which stands for Representational Similarity Analysis. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's a scientific method that lets researchers compare patterns of brain activity. It's like a mapping tool for the mind that lets us see exactly how different ideas are connected, even ideas coming from completely different senses. And this is exactly why RSA is so critical to the whole thing. It gives this theory a measurable, quantitative backbone. It takes this cool metaphor of networked thoughts and turns it into something we can actually observe and analyze with real data. It's a total game changer. So what is RSA really measuring? It's mapping out the strength of the network between different ways of thinking. For example, it can measure the connection between the visual image of a lemon, the verbal concept of the word lemon, and that physical, kinesthetic memory of its sour taste. All of a sudden, RSA makes this invisible network of thoughts totally visible and measurable. Okay, so we've got our mental tools, we have a process for translating ideas, and we have a network to connect them all. So now let's put it all together and see how this system creates those incredible breakthrough aha moments. It all happens in 4 pretty clear stages. First, you build mental models using tools like symbol mastery. Then that tRNA-like process kicks in, finding and translating scattered thoughts into new combinations.
As that's happening, the RSA network is mapping and strengthening these new relationships until, finally, when the connection is strong enough, a brand new emergent idea passes right through the gateway.
And there you have it. That's the whole system in a nutshell. We started with the core model, APC. We installed the software, our mental tools for thinking. We used that tRNA metaphor as the translator and RSA as our network protocol. And when this whole mental computer is running just right, the result is emergence, the creation of something completely new. You know, the real power of this idea is that it gives us a single, unified theory of how we think. It suggests that creativity, memory, and innovation aren't these separate, isolated skills. No, they're all interconnected parts of one dynamic system, our very own personal computer. And that really brings us to the final thought. This isn't just some abstract theory. It's a potential roadmap for how our own minds work. So the big question to leave you with is this. Now that you understand the model, what are you going to do to upgrade your own mental PC?